8 cannons lined up, and they fired these cannons. The regulators started moving out from behind the trees, and the militia hesitated to open fire because I guess maybe this was their countrymen. They knew these people. They were all colonists together. And the governor said, open fire. The militia hesitated. And Governor Tryon then said, fire on them or fire on me. We're gonna go to North Carolina, check out a historical battlefield site, so hang on. If you're a fan of the, I guess, the Starz TV series Outlander, or just a history buff about the American Revolution and the events that led up to that, then stay tuned. You're gonna like this. Guys, right here on this spot in 1771, the British troops under the direction of Royal Governor Tryon defeated the Regulators, who was a group of mostly Scottish immigrants who had gotten together to rise up against what they felt was a tyrannical government, creating high taxes and appointing sheriffs that were, let's say, not the most honest people. And so they got a group of men together and they called themselves the Regulators. And what they wanted was to demonstrate that they were displeased at what was going on and that no one was listening to their claims of problems going on, that the lack of money that they have because they were paying out taxes. Now, of course, this battle, many feel like, led eventually to the American Revolution. Now, we know a lot of things happened. 1771 was 4 years before the Battle of Lexington and Concord. So before the Battle of Lexington and Concord, all the colonies up and down the East Coast were showing displeasure at King George and the taxes that was put on them after the French and Indian War. So anyway, if you've seen the show Outlander, then I think you'll enjoy this. I'm gonna walk around, show you the grounds where this battle actually took place in their season 5 of Outlander. The ground here today is really wet. Been getting a lot of rain recently. So I am standing right about where the governor and his militia was standing, and their line would stretch across the road here. So the line would stretch across the road and down behind the visitor center. Yeah, the visitor center is right there. So that line would stretch down through there. The regulators were blocking the road that way. So they were down here. See where this big tree is? Probably down in there. Stretched across the road down that area. And they arrived at this point going down this Salisbury Hillsborough Road. Governor Tryon sent word to the men. He said, I'll give you 1 hour to lay down your weapons, go home peacefully, and we can dissolve this situation, or you will be fired upon. So the regulators' response after the hour was over was fire and be damned. So the governor with 8 cannons and a full militia opened fire, and the militia hesitated, and the governor said, fire on them or fire on me. So the Royal Militia opened fire. Now it's interesting to note that the militiamen that gathered here were from all parts of North Carolina. The governor sent out requests from all kind of I guess leaders throughout the state saying, hey, I need 50 men, whatever you can send them to me. We're going to put this uprising to bed. And then, but the regulators were mostly from this area who were upset what they felt was unfair treatment. These grounds are beautiful. Now they think that the regulators' camp was back in the woods back through there, but we're gonna walk up here. Now, they believe that right here, partly in these woods, stretched out on this high ground, you can see it's a nice little slope up here. The Regulators wanted this high ground as their camp. And the Regulators, these guys had, you know, they'd fought. They were skilled marksmen and things like that, but they didn't have cannons, and probably not quite as experienced as some of the soldiers that were signed up in the militia. That being said, many of these Regulators ended up having prominent impact on the American Revolution about 4 or 5 years later. And guys, that is Pugh's Rock. And when the battle opened up, James Pugh came to this rock, and which you can see was great cover, and he fired on the Governor Tryon's troops from right here in that spot. Now, they say that later he was captured and hung, but now more recent reports say that no, he wasn't. It was probably his brother, Herman Pugh, that was hung, because there were reports that James was seen later, as late as 1810. Now, I don't know, but this was the rock that he fired upon the British troops, or the Governors Militia, back in 1771. Now, the monument behind me was erected in 1880, so it was more than 100 years later that they got together to say, hey, we need to, you know, pay tribute to the Regulators that lost their lives. We don't really know the exact number of Regulators that lost their lives in this battle. They do know that there were 9 British troops that were killed, 9 militia, and about 61 injured. We don't know how many Regulators there were. There were a lot more Regulators that fought here than there was British and militia soldiers. It was said that the leader of the Regulators was a guy named James Hunter, but we do know that he was hung afterwards, and also his house was burnt down by Governor Tryon. After the battle, there were 14 or 15 men that were captured, and about 6 or 7 men were hung. Many of the Regulators that escaped after this battle, this rioting against Governor Tryon, they later became prominent figures in the American Revolution. Thomas Person, who actually delivered the grievances to Governor Tryon, was arrested prior to the battle, but later was set free. He later became a brigadier general for the Hillsborough militia that fought in the Revolutionary War. Another prominent figure was Francis Nash, who became a general for the Orange County militia, and then later served under George Washington at the Battle of Germantown. That is the John Allen house, and John Allen, he practiced law, he was a farmer, he was a school teacher, and they think he had a store as well. His wife is interesting as well, Rachel Stout Allen. She was a healer, And so she had all kind of cures for kidney problems and all kind of stuff. So it was very interesting, and they sold some of her products in the store, they think. She had remedies for coughs, fevers, like I mentioned, kidneys problems, and you know, even consumption and tuberculosis, I guess, to ease those symptoms. So I think that's rather interesting, because if you watch Outlander, the main character is a healer. So pretty cool.